The moon hung low over fairyland, its silver light casting eerie reflections on the crystal trees. Deep within the enchanted realm, in a secluded grove where no fairy dared to wander, Lyra sat by the cradle of her newborn son. His name was Aurelian, and from the moment he entered the world, she knew he was unlike any other fairy child. His eyes, deep pools of shifting silver, seemed far too knowing for an infant. At night, he cooed not at the stars but at the shadows that stretched unnaturally across the walls. He giggled at empty spaces, reached for unseen hands, and whispered in a language no one had taught him. Lyra had loved a man once, Kylam, a mysterious traveler who had appeared one autumn night and vanished just as swiftly. He had been kind, gentle, yet there was something sorrowful about him, something she had ignored in the throes of love. When she told him she was with child, he had smiled with an aching sadness and whispered, "He will walk between worlds." Then he was gone. Now, Lyra sat alone, cradling their child, watching as Aurelian's tiny hands traced symbols in the air. The night wind howled through the grove, but beneath it, she swore she heard voices. Whispers, murmurs from something unseen. One evening, as she rocked Aurelian to sleep, the candles flickered violently, their flames bending toward the child. The shadows on the walls twisted, forming shapes, faces, hands reaching out. Aurelian stared at them and laughed. Panic gripped Lyra. She summoned the eldest fairy seers, their silver hair glistening under the starlight, their eyes clouded with ancient wisdom. They circled the child, muttering incantations, weaving spells of protection. But then, they froze. The eldest among them, a fairy whose wings had turned to mist with age, staggered back in horror. "This child, he is not fully of our world," she whispered, her voice trembling. "His father was never among the living." A deafening silence fell over the grove. Lyra's heart pounded. "What are you saying?" she demanded, though deep inside, she already knew the answer. Kylam had never belonged to this world. He had been a ghost, a wandering soul, lingering between realms. And now, his son was the bridge, the only being able to walk between life and death. Aurelian was never meant to exist. The seers panicked, their voices rising in alarm. "The underworld will come for him," one cried. "Dark forces will try to take him." And then, the lights died. A bone-chilling wail echoed through the trees. The wind howled like a living thing, and from the shadows, dark figures began to emerge, ghosts, spirits, creatures that should not have been able to cross into the land of the living. They had come for Aurelian. Lyra clutched her child and ran. Lyra fled through the twisting forests, her wings battered by the harsh winds. Shadows slithered behind her, whispering, calling Aurelian's name. The spirits wanted him. They needed him. She reached the crystal falls, the most sacred place in fairyland, and turned to face the darkness pursuing her. Figures of mist and shadow, their hollow eyes glowing with hunger, crept forward. Aurelian, only a baby, did not cry. Instead, he reached out. And the spirits stopped. Aurelian's silver eyes shone like moons, and from his tiny lips came words no living being should know. Ancient, powerful, binding words. The spirits shuddered, their forms wavering. Then, one by one, they knelt before him. Lyra watched in shock as her son, only a few months old, commanded the dead. The strongest of the spirits stepped forward, a figure wrapped in a tattered cloak, his face hidden beneath a hood. His voice was nothing but a whisper of wind. "The child belongs with us. He is the key, the gatekeeper. He will open the doors to our prison." Lyra's wings trembled. "No," she said fiercely, holding Aurelian close. "You will not take him." The spirit reached out, and Lyra braced herself, but Aurelian placed a tiny hand over the ghost's chest. The moment his fingers touched the spirit, a ripple of light erupted. The ghost gasped, his form solidifying for a brief moment, a moment in which Lyra saw his face. Kylam, her lost love. His eyes met hers, filled with longing, with sadness. "Our son is meant for both worlds, Lyra," he whispered. "He is the bridge. He must choose his path." Aurelian stared at his father, his small hands trembling. Then, in a voice far too ancient for a child, he spoke. "I will not open the gates. I will not be used. But I will walk between worlds. I will be the guardian of the living and the dead." The spirits wailed, their plan shattered. The darkness recoiled. One by one, they vanished, pulled back into the void. Kylam gave Lyra one last, sorrowful look. "Protect him, Lyra. One day, we will meet again." And then, he was gone. The forest fell silent. The wind calmed. The night was still. Lyra held her child close, her heart aching, knowing the truth, Aurelian would never truly belong in one world. As the years passed, Fairyland spoke of the child born of a ghost, the boy who whispered to shadows. He grew, strong and wise, forever watching over the balance between life and death. But on stormy nights, when the wind howled and the trees trembled, Lyra would sometimes see a silver-eyed figure standing at the edge of the forest. Aurelian, watching, guarding, the child of a ghost, the bridge between worlds, and he was waiting.